everyone. Welcome to All Hands on Deck podcast for We the People. As you know, this is to highlight all of the action that's going on across the UK to bring real freedom to us, along with solutions to the issues that we face. And today I am joined by my friend and colleague from old, Jason Noble. Jason and I was part of the team that helped establish the Awareness Foundation. And Jason has been moving forward with a number of solutions to help people as we move into the new, as we build the new and move away from the old crumbling system. So thank you for joining me today, Jason. Welcome. So mate, quick lowdown. Let's do a little bit of background just so we can introduce you to people who maybe haven't come across you before, although you're quite prolific throughout the movement. Do you want to give a bit of background as to what you've done, just so we can lay the groundwork, and we'll take it from there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm reasonably new to the table of understanding the world's gone mad. My sort of background to all this, I've been involved in investment finance for about 20 years and started investigating the banking system about 5-6 years ago. Realized that the banking system was completely broken and started telling people back in about 2018. Most people went, "You're mad, it's not going to happen." And nowadays everyone's like, which bank's going to go next? But in 2020, when COVID kicked off, I was actually over in Spain for about 10 days and got locked down over there. Was stranded there for 5 months and literally couldn't move. I nearly got arrested for walking to the local shop. And while I was there, I just did a lot of research and started to realize that things weren't quite the way that I thought they were. And in that sort of process, I was reaching out, trying to find anybody that really had any common sense still going on. I created a group on Facebook, which I didn't really use. I wasn't really a social media person. Went on Facebook, created a group called Common Sense, got banned by Facebook after about 500 people in my group, pretty much banned and like shadow banned or whatever they do. So I then discovered Telegram, created a group on Telegram called Common Sense, ended up with about 3,000 people on there within about 5 minutes. And then realized that not that many people had any common sense and everyone was just resharing rubbish. And then that's where I met you and the Awareness Foundation sort of came about of trying to go, okay, well, there's all these problems, but what of them are actually real? And if they are real, what's the solution to the problem? And the Awareness Foundation sort of started, and the idea was obviously to highlight a issue and here's the solution. And I started doing like weekly presentations about 2 years ago, which are sort of out there for people to watch. And in that, I was going like, the financial system is something you want to watch. People like you were telling me about what you'd known for like 20-30 years. And I was like, oh my God, how do you even start to process that if you've known for that long? One of the things that bothered me at the very beginning is the amount of different groups there were trying to do stuff. And I sort of went into all the Telegram groups at one point before the Awareness Foundation pretty much started, going, why don't we all work together? I was going, look, I've got my Common Sense group. Why don't we all create one big group and all the admins go into one group? And I got banned from nearly every Telegram group for suggesting it. So I came to the conclusion that literally everyone was trying to build a reality TV show and they weren't actually looking to solve problems. I've been, looking at the banking system and going, it's going to go wrong. I was in the process of creating a private currency, and I've now created my own bank to try and counter the problems that are going on in the banking system. And I'm very much a solutions-based type person. So the Awareness Foundation, as you know, very much became like, how do you solve problems? And one of the awareness things we wanted to do, we did Hold the Line, which a lot of people heard about, where we ended up having people in 53 different countries, 53 different cities in 5 different countries, draw lines across cities. And that was like, people going, oh, you can't go up and down the motorway, and, you're going to upset
I remember that. Yeah.
Madness. So, there's, the problem we've got is I don't think enough people realize the problem that we've got. And people like ourselves are going around going, okay, here's the problem, but there's a solution. So, I've got my fingers in lots of different pies trying to work out how to put out the fire, the building that's on fire.
But you have got some ideas, haven't you? I mean, if you can explain what you do, an overview, and we'll go into a bit more detail through the Awareness Foundation and the courses and the information you supply through there, and then what the Republic of England can help us with, can bring a solution for. So let's start with the Awareness Foundation. What are you guys currently doing that can provide some solutions for people that people can go and have a look at, get involved with, and and learn?
Yeah, I mean, the Awareness Foundation sort of is matured into just an education thing. I mean, it started off life trying to go, here's a problem, here's a solution. It now really focuses on a few of the problems and the solutions, and most of that is just educational stuff. So we've developed a range of courses that are designed around status. We call it status correction, but it's moved on from where it started, and it explains about how or who you really are, and how the attacks on your pocket happen, and how to challenge that. And that's really come about by I was challenging the banks. Sort of, I've been challenging the banks for the best part of 2-3 years about the fact that they don't actually lend money. So we've been doing a number of court cases of going to the banks and saying, okay, prove you actually lent any money, because they don't. And in that process, I've done a lot of research into the law and the legal system, and not so much common law, but actually reading the rules, reading their rules and going, okay, right, you actually can't do this, read their terms and conditions. We've had quite a lot of success within this space, and we're still battling away. But in that process, I've learned a lot of things about things that you just thought you knew that aren't quite what they are. So the Awareness Foundation now is more of an educational program that we deliver to people, be it inside or outside of certain communities that we're involved in growing. And then in addition to that, it goes around doing a lot of presentations. I'm still doing the weekly, every week, every 10 days or so. There's sort of like so it's supposed to be an hour-long talk, but they sometimes go on for 4 or 5 hours once you get the questions out of the way, because when you throw out certain information, it provokes a load of questions. So my talks are quite famous for going on past midnight when they start at 7 o'clock, and they're all recorded and they're all out there for free. So we're still trying to do that, and that's basically what the Awareness Foundation is nowadays.
So where can people find this information? Say they want to get their heads around things and find out a little bit more. Where would they go to find your recordings?
So the recordings are posted in one place. So again, about 7 years ago, 7-8 years ago now, I created an entity called In One Place. It's like in one place, all words.com. And the In One Place is a private community, if you like. It's a social media thing. Ironically, for someone that never went on social media, I built a social media platform. And in it, we have an area called The Watch, which is like a YouTube equivalent, like a Rumble type thing. But there are no algorithms on In One Place. There's no censorship. We simply do what you think you get on most other channels. And in The Watch, all of the stuff's in there. So we have a channel called the Awareness Presentations, and all of the stuff that we've ever done, including what you did with the COVID-19 thing, still in there. I think it's had nearly 500,000 views nowadays, and still isn't bad.
Really?
We lasted 20 hours on YouTube when you did that. So there's lots of stuff on there. We have the ability to deliver information and make sure it's going to stay ours, because we control the servers and they're ours, sort of thing. So all the old presentations are all on there. We have a lot of other information on. We have a PDF library as well with some templates on how to fight certain things. And nowadays, the Awareness Foundation is about going, here's the problem, here's the solution. But most of the problems we're focusing on are direct attacks that the government give you, be it on your pocket, be it on your brain, and how do you solve those problems? There are other more practical solutions. We've sort of steered away to other ideas. And one of those ideas was that, and we tried to do it at one point. We got all the groups together and tried to create a group of groups, if you like, and that sort of happened many times over. But there's so much ego in this space, and so many people that are saying they're trying to fix problems but end up infighting within. Really, we have one problem to all solve, and yet we're busy scrapping with each other over each other's ideas or each other's color schemes and God knows what else. I just don't have the time for that. I'm like, no. Building's on fire, give me a fire extinguisher. So we started looking at, as I say, I was sort of, to an extent, when the Awareness Foundation changed, there was a few people dropped off, and you dropped off, and you obviously gone on and did the PHA, and it came to a point where I thought, okay, we can't. The idea is not big enough for people to to come to that idea. They're like, why is your group better than this group? What are you doing that's better than that idea? And really, all we were really focused on was the problem. So we were going, here's the problem, here's the solution, which is great, but what's the solution? And ultimately, it led me down a path where I was getting a bit fed up with the whole thing. And I started to sort of think, because I used to live overseas for many years, and I was like, oh, what am I doing? This isn't a country I've wanted to live in for many years because of the weather and God knows what else. And I was like, okay, right, time to go back overseas again. And I considered literally trying to find a bunch of investors to buy an island, create my own country, create our own set of rules, and wait for the world to come back to normal. And then I bumped into somebody who's now a friend who had ironically registered a name on Companies House, which I sort of chuckled about because my understanding of the word registration and what that actually means. I sort of said to him, but you do realize that registering on something with Companies House sort of means you don't really own it anymore. And we laughed about it, and we started doing some investigation around what he'd done and the idea he was working on compared to the idea I was working on. We started looking into basically what defines a country, because we're looking at this place going, okay, how do you defend your country if you move overseas, was what I was sort of thinking of doing. He said, well, how are you going to defend England if you bugger off elsewhere? Will they even let you come back? So we came to the conclusion that we probably had to start here and work from there. And Craig had registered the Republic of England on Companies House. So we obviously, it was a fairly strong name to be able to have. And then we sort of went, okay, well, how does England fit into the mix? Why? What stops it being a republic? Why is it this? And we started doing a bunch of research and stumbled across an agreement that had been made in Montevideo in 1933, where all the countries pretty much got together and went, okay, what does it define to be a country? And there was 4 or 5 things that they defined. And when we looked at the 4 or 5 things, we realized that England were actually missing 3 of the 5 key ingredients. One being that you needed a leader, you needed a parliament. We don't have an English leader, and we don't have an English parliament. We have a British Prime Minister, British Parliament. Even Scotland and Wales isn't even a country. They have leaders and countries. So we basically just realized that actually, technically, England, in all intensive purposes, as a structure, didn't exist. And even when you start looking into the entities that make up the United Kingdom, we stumbled across the fact that probably Great Britain and the United Kingdom probably don't exist as well. So basically, on St. George's Day last year, we relaunched England as the Republic of England. We are now in the process of sort of fitting the criteria of what countries consider a country to be. So if anybody wants to look at us and say, well, you can't be a country, well, we're fitting into what they want it to look like. And then we're doing things like writing to the king and to the government saying, could you show me the receipt for when you purchased the land that we all walk around on? Because if you haven't got it, then how do you say that this is your piece of land? Because when you start doing even more digging into it and to, how did they get the land and when did they get the land and why did they get the land and who currently owns it, you realize that that's basically breached their rules too as to what you can and can't do. So that's sort of some of what I'm focusing my time on now and for the last year nearly now. Our 1 year anniversary is coming up on St. George's Day, which ironically is the day that we're going to have the emergency alarm thing.
It's exactly the same day as us, 23rd of April.
Oh, really? Okay. Wow.
That's our birthday. That's our 1 year. How weird is that? I didn't realise that those synced so well. Yeah.
So there you go. We're still in sync. So obviously that's the day that they're going to do the emergency alarm. I'm not sure if that's something to do with us, but we're hoping to be their emergency and come along and say you have a problem because no one's listening to your rubbish anymore.
No. So it's a beautiful theory in terms of the ideas and what you've got around it. How do we start forming it as a reality? How do people engage with it? How do we move forward from here to develop the Republic of England being what we kind of want it to be? How do we go from here?
So if you look at the definitions of what it takes to be a country, you have to have a landmass, you have to have a population. We have both of those because we are from this piece of land. If you look at the rules in places like New Zealand and Australia and America, they have like rules that protect indigenous populations. And it really comes down to, the definition is actually 3 generations in the ground. That's one of the things that they look at. But we don't have that in England or the United Kingdom as a whole. So we've sort of looked at that and gone, okay, so the piece of land belongs to us all, and if someone wants to say that it's theirs, then we want them to prove that, because you know, again, into their rules, they have things called legal maxims, and the burden of proof lies on the claimant. So if you want to claim this land to be yours, prove it. Don't tell me, show me. So we're not claiming the land, we're just saying that we have the right to be on the land too. And we'd investigated into things like embassies at one point, going, could we make everybody's house an embassy? But even that's a little bit more complicated. So we've actually just gone, okay, everybody has a right to the land, them and us, but they don't have a right to tell us what to do with the land any more than we do. So we're saying, okay, so we've got a land mass. We currently have a population, and it's growing by the week. We've set up a set of rules, which is another one that you need, a constitution, if you like. We've proclaimed ourselves to be the Republic of England, which is no different from what the King's done. The King is currently the King because he's proclaimed himself to be the King. He's not been crowned by anyone. So if anyone who wants to say that doesn't work, and just ask the King, because apparently he's the King because he says so. And we've gone around the country. We've been to pretty much every county in the country. And we've been to Scotland as well in that time, and stated very clearly what we're doing, and we have not yet had anybody object to it or tell us why we can't do it. So as far as we're concerned, we've, for at least a year, we've been claiming that we exist. And we're in the process of growing from there. Now, if someone's interested in hearing about it, then we do regular presentations live and online. There are ways to join, and again, it's probably better to watch one of those things before someone decides the merits or not of the idea. But it is a big project. The idea is not to create something and say, right, we're not a kingdom. We're not like, the worst thing in the world is to have someone go, I've got an idea, I'm going to create a country, I'm your leader, would you like to join? For us, we decided very quickly at the beginning that was the worst idea in the world. So we've actually created a thing that we call the round table, which are a series of architects, if you like, that are building the idea. So they're putting the foundations in place, and none of those people can ever ask to be the leader. Now, people often run from leaders. They go, oh, we've got bad leaders. The last thing we need is more leaders. But actually, there's nothing wrong with good leaders, good people that know how to do stuff. If you put 5 chefs in a kitchen, one will probably eventually be the person that goes, we're cooking this, you cut the carrots, you cut the meat, and I'll decide what we're eating. And if you look at nature, if you look at birds flying through the sky, there's usually one flying with a triangle, and eventually that one gets tired and moves to the back, and someone else comes to the front. So people often are scared of the natural leader in people, but actually people often need that. A lot of people actually go, right, well, where are we going? What are we doing? Does anybody know the way? So we're not putting a set of rules in place. We're simply going, okay, there's a structure, there's an idea. And the idea is a long-term idea where the people step forward and go, okay, I'd like to do, I've got an expertise in building roads, I'll do that. And then have an accountability for what you're trying to do. But again, people often think of republics and a sovereign, a kingdom, as being a president or a king, and it's the same thing, and you can be the king and you're the leader. But actually it's the other way around. A sovereignty or a kingdom is the king is the leader and you're under them, so your royal highness, you're higher than me. Whereas in a republic, the people are the owners of the country, and they delegate their power, they delegate their authority to someone who serves them. So those leaders in a republic actually work for the people. In a kingdom, it's the other way around. You are a subject of the king. So as much as we think that our king has no power, why do we have to call him Royal Highness then? And to me, I've always been the same. And it's not a new thing. I've always just gone, I don't get it. I don't understand why that person, where did God give them the power to be the king or the queen? And I used to fall out with my dad over this for years. I've never understood kingdoms. I've never understood it. I've always gone, that's just so out of date. But republics have been, to an extent, they've been polluted as well. And a true republic is where the people have control and they maintain control. And as long as the people have got control, the people that are in doing the jobs, if they're accountable to the people, then there's not such a bad idea. You know, the idea that we've all thought we had isn't a bad idea if it was run correctly. So what we're trying to do with the Republic at the moment is put that structure that people believe they have in place. And you know, we're a year old and we haven't created one rule. We haven't gone, you can't do this or you can't do that. So people often say, oh, you know, beware of somebody that's trying to create a leadership. But actually, we haven't created rules, because most people that have cottoned on to the mess actually don't need people to tell them what to do with the right and wrong, because actually they already know what's right and wrong, which is why they're bothered by what's going on that is wrong. At some point in time, the people will need to get together and go, okay, what's the basic stuff? What's the basics that we need that stops people from being antisocial, for example. But you know, the key things that people know you shouldn't do, you just don't do, and the people that do will have to find a way to deal with them. So it's actually a very simple idea, although it sounds very grand and quite a big project, which it is. It's actually very simple at the same time.
I take on board what you say about leadership, because you know, I've had an element of pushback from people saying, oh, you know, is Katherine the leader? Blah, blah. Not really, no, but ultimately the responsibility of everything and the buck, should the proverbial hit the fan, has to stop with someone, and I'm that person. So actually people are quite quick to criticize there being a leader, but actually, do you want the responsibility? Do you? Because if you do, step up. Most people don't, and that's the difference. It's not that the leaders, as we've seen it in the years gone by, where they're the diktat, where they tell you what to do, so much as actually, no, I've got some ideas, I can help guide you, and guess what, I'm going to take the fall if the proverbial hits the fan, so you don't have to. So I think people need to keep an open mind. Well, I mean, trust your instincts. Some people are going to put themselves forward, and it is going to be ego based, and they are going to be driven by a personal agenda. Don't get me wrong, there will be those out there, but actually people need to keep an open mind. There's some of us out there who found ourselves in this position, we didn't really ask for it, it just developed organically, and hey, guess what, I'll take the shit so you don't have to. And I think people need to keep an open mind on that, because I think you're right though, it's because people have been so hit by what they see has happened that of course they're going to be a little bit unsure, and I think discernment is key at this stage. But also, don't box it off as being something bad, when in fact there's a load of people of us out here who some would historically call leaders, when in fact actually we're where the buck stops, we are where the line of responsibility ends, and that's what it is. And we just happen to have ideas and thoughts that we've activated and made happen, and as such found ourselves in this position. Would you agree? It's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, it's a difficult one, because you know, I would happily go and hide away and just get on with my life. I don't really need
the feeling
grief that comes with this. I mean, you get a lot of people criticize you as well, even people you
get abuse all the time. I get messages that are horrific from some weirdos. You know, I had one awful, you know, basically, we know where you live, we're going to come and rape your children.
Oh, nice.
You know, that's the sort of shit I've had. But at the same time, we take that because we understand that with these types of roles, you're probably going to get some flack. You are.
I'm more worried about, I mean, I often get people saying to me, why are you doing this? And are you not worried about doing it? I mean, when we did the launch of the Republic, somebody in the audience went, isn't that sedition? And I was, at the time, I was like, not sure. I need to go and look it up. So I was like, let me read about sedition and go and find out what that is. And then ironically, I found out that it had been removed anyway, so it doesn't even exist. But
I think it exists in the US. I don't think it's the UK. I think it exists in the US.
Yeah, I mean, well, the reality is that sedition is the removal of the people in power, and we've very clearly stated in our proclamation that we are not trying to unseat any person that's pretending to be important. However, we don't have to listen to them just because they want to pretend that they're important. That's what we've pretty much stated. But I mean, having, the best part of 3 years and 2 years online, spending hours and hours and hours trying to explain to people things that I've learned personally, I've really realized that sometimes this is so big that some people will never get their head around it. And again, one of the things that I mentioned about the banks, I mean, when you explain to people that the banking is a mess, the banking system is broken beyond repair, broken. As soon as you say to someone, all the banks are broken and they've got no money, most people just go, well, which bank should I put my money in? And so the issue is that most people struggle to see different from what they already know. Yeah. And that's no different when you go, your country's messed up. People go, well, what do I do? Who do I follow if I can't follow them? And that's why we end up with the left, right, blue, red. It's like the opposite of the other one, but you end up with two sides of the same coin. You've got to go, yep, I need something different. But if you go, yep, to someone, stop that system, they want a system that looks a bit the same because they can't get their head around that much of a change. So that's, yep, what we try to do with the Republic, is literally go, this is what you sort of understand. You understand counties, you understand people that you can look up to and that are supposed to do good things for you. You understand that you call the police when, in theory, you call the police when something's going wrong and they're supposed to come to your rescue, except they don't. They just try and fine you for things all the time and never come when you really need them. And you pay money for services you don't get, and there's no accountability for any of this sort of stuff. So we're sort of trying to replicate that and say, wouldn't it be great, for example, if someone paid you to pick up your rubbish instead of you paying to get your rubbish collected, and then them turning it into something that basically is money, and then they sell that back to you. So, I mean, most people have no idea, but you're paying, when you look at things like council tax, people think they're getting loads of things for their council tax. But one thing that people mostly settle on is they go, well, I'll get my bins collected. But the reality is that the people that are collecting the bins are paying the council to collect the bins. And then in addition to that, they're then selling that to waste to energy plants to make money from it, and then selling it back to the national grid. So, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on there that is just not what you think. So we're trying to sort of go, well, let's take that entire business model, turn it on its head and say, okay, imagine if you could make money from giving us your waste as opposed to paying to give us your waste. There's a service that we could actually deliver if we have enough people to go, well, I'm going to stop donating my waste to the government and start donating it to this organisation instead. So it's just like for like, but just better.
Yeah. And how would you suggest, so there's little old me who's been very, very busy creating PHA, PFFA. We all know, Jason, that financials are not my thing. I'm basically backwards in that way. And so where would I start? What would be my first thing? I'm going, oh, Jason, what you're saying makes sense. I pay my bills, I live my life within the system, as much as I'm aware of. Where do I start? What do I do? What's my first step?
I think the again, going back to what we tried to do with the Awareness Foundation, is our motto was always problem solution. The problem is this, the solution is that. For me, one of the problems we have is that many people are scared. They live in a country where they're scared of the government, they're scared of the police, they're fearful of bailiffs, they're fearful of what happens if I do anything about it. They don't know the rules because the rules have been made so complicated that they don't know them. So one of the key things we've tried to do is why would you join the Republic? Now you look at it and go, okay, well, that's lovely, going to start a country, good luck with that one. But the reality is that we've started a country. It has all the ingredients bar one of what a country or countries say a country should look like. And we think we can finish that final one off shortly. But once you got it and you say, okay, great. So if I join that, what do I get? What's the benefit? And we've come to the conclusion that the first thing we should deliver to the population is to feel more secure, feel safer. So if you're looking at it going, okay, well, what do I get for joining? What's the benefits? The benefits are you're trying to build things. And at some point, if you become too much of a risk to the system, they will probably attack you. And they, many people that they have. So we're trying to say, okay, let's build something to stop that. Now, one of the first things to do is to stop contributing ourselves to that problem. And we keep donating money to them because we think we have to, but we don't know how to not. And this comes back to that same thing. If you say to someone, you know, I did a presentation probably a year ago now where I explained to people that tax is voluntary. And when I first did it, people were like, you're nuts. It really isn't. And at the time, I didn't know half of what I now know, but I can explain very simply why it is, and also how there are rules that they have that not only do they actually state in their own paperwork that it's voluntary, on top of that, they also then have things that say that by doing certain things, they break other laws that are quite serious, that could serve up to life imprisonment for breaking. So again, when you get all that lot together and go, okay, I now know that, and you know how to argue it, it gives people the power to have an argument where they're empowered in that argument. So one of the things we're trying to do is initially say to people, look, if you join, the first benefit is we will help you to stop donating to them, because we're funding someone who's treating us like dirt. So if we learn how to not fund them, we've now got more money in our pocket. And if that's the benefit, great. If you then want to take that extra money you've got in your pocket and start to do things with it to then have a community that helps you in some way, then maybe that's a good use of some of the money you save by not donating it there. And then we're looking at sort of trying to find partners that are already building stuff. We don't want to build everything from scratch. We've got certain things that we're focusing on right now. The first one is to make people feel secure. But then, you know, we need an alternative health system. We need alternative food supplies. We need alternative everything. We've got to build everything again from scratch. So we're really focused on, at the moment, the ability to trade with one another without interference, CBDC's sort of problems coming and everything else. I mean, literally this morning, I don't know when this is going to go out, but this morning I've just received an email from a major top 5 bank that I have an account with, stating that I can pay in a maximum of £24,000 a year into my account in cash, £3,000 a month and a maximum of £24,000 a year as a rolling 24 month. You know,
but you don't know why, I'm assuming. Don't know why they've bothered to.
At what point can a bank decide I can't pay cash into the bank? It's either money or it isn't money. It's not money anyway, but you know, cash is supposed to be money. So, you know, who gives them the power to turn around and tell me I can't pay legal tender into my own bank account? So we have to break the cycle. We've got to, we literally have to build everything. And I often talk about this at the presentations, but one of the most demoralizing presentations I think I've ever watched in the last couple of years was one called Monopoly, which is about how
I know, I've seen it.
Own everything. And when you watch it, it's just like I sat there afterwards going, oh my God, where do we start? Where do we start? I'm a very practical person. I look at things and go, okay, how do you fix this? How do you fix that? How do you fix this? And when I realized that they own everything, somehow they managed to print enough money to buy every major PLC company on the planet, whilst creating mergers and monopolies commissions and pretending that you can't.
The irony.
To do that without anyone really noticing. I know a few people have, but globally, most people haven't even noticed that they've done it. Is quite monumental if you think about it. And the sheer scale of what the hell do you do to combat that when they can control the banking and the media and the food and everything. Literally, communication is a lot. And I don't think enough people realize the sheer scale of that as a problem. And when you throw on top of it that they're now going to try and create money that they can turn off, on top of all of the other stuff, that's a big problem for me. And I know we've had many a debate over the years, and you know, where I've gone, it's all about the money, and people are going, oh, you money grabbing scumbag, and you're a capitalist, and all you worry about is the money. But I'm like, no, it's like it is the blood that runs through our veins, and it shouldn't be, but unfortunately at the moment it still is. We can't trade. People go, oh, that's barter, and you know, the reality is that most people won't. As idealistic as anybody is, most people will not go out in the garden, grow a bunch of carrots, pick them and give them to someone for free. They're eventually going to go, what are you going to give me for my carrots? And that's, you know, and eventually your usefulness runs out. So then you've got to have something to barter with. And that's why money's become part of the system, because eventually bartering only works to a point, and then you run out of useful stuff or usefulness. So I
don't disagree with you. I do think that communities will find their own way of trading. But again, what does that look like, and how does everyone get involved? So if you live in a flat and you can't grow food, you can't do anything, where do you sit? Now, idealistically, everyone would be kind enough to share and support each other and everything else. But we know the nature of humans, that not everyone's going to be there for some time yet. And we need to cover that interim, which is where I see part of your solutions coming into play, is to support a transition that will be going for a while.
Yeah, I mean, there are, I think it's called a Ubuntu or something like that. I mean, where there's this idea that everybody owns everything, but that's a cultural thing, and it's going to take a long time to change people from what we know to that, and to get people that don't think this way to suddenly go from here to here in a day is not going to happen. And as much as people go, yeah, but it's the way it needs to be, it's like, yeah, maybe it does, but
it does.
It'll take a generation,
we're not there yet,
or two to get there. So again, I think very practically. It's like, I need to bang a nail in the wall. It's like, get me a hammer. And unless someone's found a better way, right now, I need a load of hammers.
do it.
And so, everything that we're trying to do with the Republic is very practical. It's like, we need a health system. We need clean food, clean water, an independent trading system, call it what you like, whether it's money or bartering or a combination of both. We have to be able to trade with one another without using their systems, because they are using those systems to control us more and more and more and more and more.
So what's your solution for that? I know you've got one.
Well, when I stumbled across the banks being a mess, because I'd been building a private community currency in one place. It's a system called Digital. So anybody wants to look into it, it's digital with 2 L's.life. There's a demo video. And we've created a blockchain technology that isn't using, it's not using exchanges. So again, one of the biggest problems is people create a cryptocurrency. The first thing they do is they stick it on an exchange, and it goes out into anyone can buy it. And then the regulators are all over those people going, you can't do this, you can do that. You've got to create everything and privatize it. You've got to put it not in the private public thing, but you just need to not be on their stuff again. The minute you go, the public can buy it and it's open for anyone to do, they then start throwing their rules around it. Whereas you've got to sort of go, it's our rules, our little bubble, you're not invited, it's a members club. My intention when I created it was to create the biggest private community currency the world's ever seen. And they've been around for many, many years in things in the forms of Bristol pound and Brixton pound. And there's been private currencies in America, Canada, all sorts of places. Since I stumbled across what I understood now, I'm now concerned about what happens if they switch off the internet or the power supply. So in addition to digital, we've also now built grams, which is a paper currency backed by silver. So we have the ability to distribute both paper and an electronic system. And this is something we're hoping to have ready to go fully in its current format in the next week or two. So we've been doing a load of work over the last year to re-energize the entire thing in a much bigger way. There's quite a lot of money been spent on this, and again, it's not something you can build in 5 minutes. It's taken me 5 years to get to this sort of stage, and the reality is that if we don't have alternatives to CBDCs, we are going to have a massive problem. My banks just turn around and say, I can't put cash in my own bank account. If that's a very simple restriction, that same bank also turned around and recently told me I can only spend £5,000 on buying crypto per month, a maximum of £1,000 per transaction. So it's like, how many different restrictions do they want to give me to not be able to do what I want with my own money, even though it's not my money once it's in a bank?
So where do we sit in reality terms? Because as again, I will say this once again, somebody who's not a specialist in this area, the way I'm seeing things roll out is my expectation in my little world is sometime in the next few months, all the banks are going to crash. Am I being too pessimistic? Because I know you and I have talked in the past about it being in October, because we've historically seen all the shit hit the fan in an October. What are your thoughts on that? And realistically, what do we have to do to be ready within that time frame, excuse me, to ensure that your scheme, or, you know, I know that I'll have to introduce you to Justin Walker from the Hardwick Alliance, who's looking to bring back the Bradbury Pound.
Yeah, I've met Justin. I've met him.
Have you? You've met with Justin? Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
I
very
don't think the
funny.
Bradbury Pound will ever work. The Bradbury Pound.
Okay.
I had a debate with Justin, a healthy debate at a presentation up in Stratford. It was a Freedom Hub presentation. Karen did it. The problem with the Bradbury Pound is it's backed by our value, if you like. The problem is, how do you value someone? How do you value what a hairdresser is compared to a doctor? How do you put a value around that? It doesn't. It fundamentally has flaws, and it's another idealistic thing. The currencies. I've investigated currencies back, like, if you believe in history, I've gone back 2,000-3,000 years and ways that currencies have worked. And the reality is they've always started the same way. They've always failed the same way. And any other things that have come in the middle of that, trying to be something different, have all failed, except for the same thing that works, which is you start with a limited supply backed by something of value.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then eventually someone starts taking away that limited supply. You end up with a fiat currency. Bartering has never worked for long periods of time. And the Bradbury Pound is based by old history things that lasted for 5 seconds, and if they would worked, they wouldn't have gone. The only thing that really works in currency is it's backed by something of value.
Yeah.
Be it gold, silver, you can call it anything.
Silver, yeah.
It needs to be backed by something of scarcity where that can't be manipulated. And unfortunately, even gold and silver have been manipulated over the years. So they're not even the most reliable storer of things, but you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah. But how long we got, Jason? Come on. You're watching it unfold now. You're far more aware and an expert than me, clearly. What are we looking at here? Because I don't like to bombard people with fear messaging. And I like to have, if I've got to deliver some bad news, I want to have the solution backed up. Now, you guys clearly have been looking at that solution, but we don't have enough people involved. They're very much like PHA and PFFA. They're flying along. It's going great. But actually what we need is 100% of the country behind it. So we can all start decentralizing as a unit, with that unity and doing it together. And there are power in numbers. We all know that. So, when do you foresee things potentially hitting the fan? And B, how much do we need to get ready before that happens realistically? And is that doable? Or do we just put in the safety nets we can for now, and that'll have to be it?
It's always I've been very reluctant to ever go, this is when it's going to go wrong. One of the things I have been very clear on is it will go wrong. And when I say it will go wrong, if you look back to what happened in the Great Depression, when the crash happened in 1929, you had like the Roaring Twenties. You had this roaring boom before a bust, and the bust was because of the boom. And they've done the same thing here. They've printed a huge amount of money since COVID, and they've been throwing out the system, diverting a lot of money in lots of different directions. And we are heading to what will be a monumental crash. And there's a lot of things that you can see that sort of, there's a lot of people that have done diary or reread diaries from the 20s, and you can sort of listen to that and you'd be like listening to today. So you can sort of see a pattern emerging. Ironically, I'm actually literally just posted a presentation I'm going to be doing this Friday, having done some research over Easter, because I've always been reluctant to put the date on it. One of the things I've highlighted to people is that every major crash in history has always happened in October. So, beware Octobers, and, the film, The Hunt for Red October, you sort of go, But last October, the Vatican pulled in, last year leading up to October, the Vatican pulled all of its money out of the banking system and moved it back to the Vatican's own church or their own bank. And that gave me concerns last year. But again, even last year, I was like, I'm not sure it's going to be enough to basically break it. Beware October. If I had to go when, I'm reasonably sure it will be this October or next October. And if I had to pick between the two, it's more likely this October than next. And the reason I say that is that there's a lot of things where time's just running out. The only reason I extend it again further is because they've been very aggressive with raising interest rates. And as such, when we went into COVID, interest rates were zero. They'd run out of everything they can do to sort of stimulate the market. But because they've ramped up interest rates as quickly as they have, what they've done is they've actually given themselves some rope to come back down again. So I actually think that there's going to be some really big problems this year. And I would definitely be cautious of the last quarter. Whether that is the giant crash that everyone's expecting, with the current situation, I think they'll raise interest rates further till then, which would then give them the ability to pull those rates back down again. And that Fed, if you ever watch any financial presentation, which I'm sure you watch all the time, there is a thing called the Fed pivot, and there'll be a point where the Fed stops raising rates, stops, and then starts lowering them, and you'll probably see them lower them very quickly if you start to see corrections and things. And then they've probably got another go at printing a lot more money before the big crash. The time frames, if you dig far enough, the time frames in the agenda for releasing CBDCs globally is 2025. However, in the last 2 weeks, they've pretty much turned off a huge number of things within the banking system. And I got a call literally just over a week ago where I was told that some very sophisticated bank instruments no longer exist. Like literally over one weekend, they're gone. So there are some really big problems going about. And the presentation I'm going to be doing at the weekend is mainly about why it's going to go wrong. And most people are looking for what's going to go wrong. Basically, the banking system has a huge exposure to unsecured debt, like on a level that most people don't understand the serious consequences behind it. And that will be, in my opinion, what basically blows it up. You're going to find that people are going to lose their jobs. They won't be able to pay their cards. They won't be able to pay their car loans. Their mortgages are going to be unaffordable. And that will be the catalyst that causes the problem. Whether that's what breaks it or whether some other system breaks it, like an escalation of further wars that can create instability, which then causes problems, is another matter. But something will flick the switch, and at that point it's just going to be a car crash. And when it goes, it will be a disaster.
So I'm watching this video, I'm Sharon, sat there, I've just woken up, quite new to all of this, and I've just listened to Jason Noble, and now I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? Do we suggest that people go to the In One Place or find the Awareness Foundation information? And what do? Do they join the Republic of England so that they can start decentralizing themselves from the system, if you like? What's where you're concerned with the solutions you're bringing? What is that first step for them?
For me, the solution to any problem is to work out what bothers you. You've always got to start with, like, I'm worried about this and how do I fix it? If you're worried about your money blowing up, you need to then think about what money is and do some research into what you can do about that. If you're concerned about the fact that things are going, you see all these people coming off boats, going into hotels, that's another problem, potentially sitting all around the country. The amount of people that go, oh, these are military people and they're going to one day turn up on the streets. I have no idea whether they will or they won't, but they certainly don't look like asylum seekers to me. So, many years ago, I used to run a security company, and I know what to look out for. I used to run a very large security company. I can tell people that you would want to keep an eye on. And I've seen many videos of people, and I look at them and go, they're not people that are distressed. They are people that mean business. And so for that very reason, I'm looking at that going, that's a problem. Now, you see estimated numbers of 25,000 and God knows how many people that have been brought in here. I've personally gone and sat in car parks of 10, maybe 15 hotels where people are in, just keeping an eye out, going like, how many people are coming in and out? What type of people are coming in and out? I sat in one car park for well over an hour, and I didn't see one female or one child coming in and out the building in an hour. So to me, that says something's not right there. So if that bothers you, what do you do about it? It really is about what bothers you. With my Republic of England head on, everything should bother us. I just look at it and go, we're run by a bunch of idiots that really haven't got a clue, that actually probably aren't even in control. And that bothers me. I'm looking at this going, this is my home. This is the thing, is like, if we consider this our home, we should be in control of it. And are we? If we're not, and that bothers me, then what do I do about it? And for me, the force of the law is the problem. It's not the law, it's the force of the law. They basically tell us what to do, and then they use the force of the law. They enforce their rules on us. Whether those rules are right or wrong, they go, you must. So for me, to defend against that, the best way to do that is to do what they do. They go basically create a series of people that go, if you don't do as I say, I'm going to send someone around and tell you, you must. Well, I'd rather build our own team of people that go, make me, and make our team bigger than their team, if you like.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't even need as many people as they've got, because again, I used to run a fairly large event security company. I've done security at places like Wembley Stadium. You know, back in those days, it was the old Wembley, but there was 80,000 people. We used to go down there with 1,000 people and control 80,000 people. So you don't always need the numbers on your side. You just need to be organized. You need to be well trained. You need to know the rules and what to do. So the reality is that I believe we need our own security. I think we need our own legal advisors, and not so much actually legally trained people, because people that are legally trained don't actually know the law. But you know, we need to start not saying yes to everything that we're told to do. Start going, you know, why do I have to? And then having some people you can call if they try and enforce you to do so. If you're worried about the financial system, that's very easy. You just need to think about what your wealth's held in. Most people hold their wealth in things that are pieces of paper. That's all it is. Bank notes are pieces of paper. In fact, most people have bank money in a bank, and it's not even in money, it's in numbers on a screen that could disappear tomorrow. So it's looking at what bothers you and then saying, where's the solution? What we're trying to do, both through the Awareness Foundation, is explain what some of those solutions look like. And with the Republic, we're trying to build an alternative structure that everyone can plug their ideas into, that basically is big enough that everyone can go, that represents me. Our home is England. And since we started the Republic, we've actually now spawned a Republic of Scotland. So the Scots have got in on it and gone, you know, we don't want to be part of the United Kingdom anyway. Half the Scots clearly don't want to be part of the United Kingdom. And why should they be? I mean, I've always been, you know, when I grew up, I always thought, you know, the union was a good thing. But actually the Scots are very Scottish and the English are very English. But, you know, why do we all have to be this one big thing? So actually, but we also got this rivalry because of people that have created this left, right, Scots, English. It's just, you know, we're all the same people. We're all hanging around, you know, but so we've actually working really closely with the Scots to work together, but not to steal each other's identity from each other. And even within the country, you know, as you go around locally, you know, a Geordie is not, you know, Geordies are not Londoners, and Londoners are not Scousers, and you know, each one of those need to build locally. So we're growing from the ground up. We're literally building local communities, and then get those local communities to then work out how to work with each other in a more sort of national basis.
Yeah, I mean, with us for PHA and PFFA, it is all about community. That's what everything we do, we produce, it boils back to. So, I mean, for me, I mean, I'm quite comfortable to come to you and talk about this, but if you're somebody out there who's thinking, oh, okay, there's a lot of information, I've looked on the website, a little bit overwhelmed. Actually, why not get together with a few like-minded people in your community and approach it together and go through the process together, so you're not on your own and you have got a bit of support, and if it does seem daunting to you. And also it's making people aware of the fact that, okay, so PHA might not resonate you. Maybe, you know, the Republic of England thing, you could actually go and get involved with helping to build that and grow it and develop it. You might have a certain skill set that you could bring to the table, which would really make a huge difference to the teams there. Because I don't know about you, but if you're anything like us, fundamentally, and we're very fortunate that we've got so many members out in the community just going for it, but at the core level, we're very few in number. you know, and we work bloody hard to bring the solutions. But actually we're just normal people, and if you've got a skill set you think might help, come forward. You know, there's you guys, there's us, there's other authentic groups out there. And actually the important part now is we come together, particularly at community level, and we start making it happen now. Because what we don't want to do is the proverbial hits the fan and we're not prepared, we're not ready. Actually, let's get our shit together and let's do it now before it happens. And through you, through us, through PFFA, and all these other groups out there who are authentic. There are some out there that aren't, but those authentic groups, those grassroots authentic groups, actually are bringing the solutions. You just got to get involved. That's the difference. We have to do it together. We don't have millions of pounds behind this, billions of pounds to hire people and make it happen. But more importantly, I do believe each one of us has a civic responsibility to play a part in this and into building the new and finding the solutions and taking a step forward. And actually, our roles are ones that are going to help create the future. We are going to create the future. It's an opportunity to be pioneers here. So just do it. If you're nervous about do it and it seems overwhelming, because like I say, someone like me, I'd be like, oh, that's a lot. Go and hook up with people in your community and do it together. You know, a few of you can surely think, right, let's go and just tackle this. Let's see what Jason's talking about. Let's go and figure this out and do it together. And we're all going to support each other, because I think there is a feeling of overwhelm for people to take that decisive step forward and say, right, bollocks to it. I'm going to actually stand my ground here. I'm going to do that council tax thing. I'm going to do this, that, and the other. A lot of people are overwhelmed by the possibility of doing that. And actually having us a support system and doing it together makes it far less daunting. And then you're just not on your own. You've got other people going through it at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't have to, none of us should have to fight these things we have to fight. But at the moment, we've got a problem with a bunch of bullies that tell us what to do. So, you know, the reality is, until we can make that go away as a reality, we've got to then deal with the fact that there's some bullies bullying us. And so we've become acutely aware of, I've become acutely aware over the last couple of years, trying to explain to people that you don't have to do these things, that some people are just never going to get their head round how not to. Any different from, you know, I use this as an analogy a lot. You know, if I broke my leg tomorrow, I wouldn't get a book out and go, right, okay, how do I patch it back up again? I wouldn't be like, right, I'll be like, right, can I find someone who's worked out how to fix this and fix my leg, please? And the same sort of goes within certain things within this space. We need to find people that are good at doing certain things and all find a way to work together. And in a way, we need a banner that fits to, because, you know, I tried to do it with the Awareness Foundation, and people often are like, well, why would we join you as opposed to us? What's so much better about you than it? For me, the banner is the country. This is it. This is our home. So if we all get under the same banner and we're all going in the same direction, and then we can teach people that, you know, food that we eat most of the time when we're buying them from the local supermarkets is probably killing us. And there are many, many cures to many, many diseases that you're not even allowed to tell people about. Ultimately, you know, we have to create a new everything. We've got to create a new health system, a new food system, a new media, a way to trade with one another. And the sooner that everyone gets a bit more organized and works together on all this, the quicker we're going to get it. We're the same. We haven't got enough hands on deck at all. We're never going to have enough. Every time everybody says to me, how many people have you got in the population? The answer will always be not enough. You know, even if we can get to 1 million, we need 20. You know, if we get to 20, we need 50. The reality is that if you actually could get every single person in this country and go, okay, let's look at what you've got, look at what you could have. This is our version. This is their version. Which would you pick? I'm pretty sure that 99.9% of people, if they actually sat and listened, would go, that one. Why on earth would I want this one? We have nothing good given to us by the people that we think are supposedly looking after us. I can't think of one good thing. And people say, oh yeah, but I get this, I'll get that. But any benefit that you get from the country comes with a set of rules. It comes with a set of like chains. It's like, we'll give you this and that's going to get worse. You know, when they bring in CBDCs, I think it will be like, you can only have this if they've made us reliant upon them so that they can control. It's like, it's more fear. It's like, well, I'll give you this if it's like a drug pusher, you know, I'll give you just about enough until you come back again. We're addicted to government control, and we have to break that, and that's going to take time. And I think anybody that's building the republic understands fully that it's going to take a lot of re-education as well as solutions to basically get people to understand the damage that has been done to them and how to then go about fixing it. And that is going to take time, and it's we're certainly not going to be able to build all that stuff. People like yourselves that have already got a massive head start in the stuff that you're doing there. Why would we rebuild what you're already doing?
Yeah,
we
sure.
just work together on the same thing, and then we can get on with building the things we're building and find some other people that are doing great stuff, build them in. And if someone comes along with an idea and says, okay, I've got a great idea and it's better than what we've got you can't go, well, no, we've already got.
No, exactly.
You got to go, actually, we never thought of that. Right, okay, unplug this one.
We shifted things at PFFA. So we had an initial vision. We went out there, we started things, we realized, hang on a minute, there's a few groups there that are doing similar. So we've amended slightly what we're doing so we can actually support those groups as well, because it isn't about us as individuals, it isn't about us as an entity, it's about what we can do together. And I feel very, very passionately about that. We're big on collaborations and partnerships and so forth, because it's actually, we can come up with a number of solutions, but together we'll find all the solutions. In the fullness of time, we'll find all the solutions. So we're very big on partnerships and collaborations. And I think that everybody should drop the damn ego, stop worrying about what you've done as an individual, and start looking at what is the need of this country? What is the need of the people of this country? That is the bottom line. All the other stuff is just ego and bullshit. It's just ego and bullshit. Drop it. So for like I say, for food and farming, fine. We rejigged things. We worked with the people that are already doing something so that we're working in a way that supports them and we can still help at community level. And what would be ideal is if everybody felt the same way. I don't think we're quite there yet, but if everybody looked at it the same way, and we lean into your strengths, don't try and stick a square peg in a round hole. Find out where your people are and what they're good at. Let them freaking do it. And you come along and do something else. And I think that's a key part of this movement that everyone needs to remember, that actually dropping the ego at this stage would be a really, really good way to go.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. I think if people could just realise that if we just got organised, that's the only thing that's holding us back. If we all suddenly went, no, we're not doing any of what you say anymore.
It is that simple, actually. It really is.
And all we've got to then have is an alternative to that. And that's not that difficult either, with enough people. Especially
if we're all going in the same direction. If everyone's singing from the same hymn sheet, this is done in a couple of months. It's done. If everyone mobilises at the same time and moves in the same direction.
But how on earth does anyone ever think that's going to happen unless you have a centralised plan of action? You've got to be going, okay, this is the idea. We all say no. For example, this is really easy starting point. Go, thanks very much, but no thanks. And everybody says it. Right, I'm not paying any parking tickets. I'm not paying any tax. I'm not paying any ULEZ. I'm not paying any of this stuff. We all say tomorrow, no. What are they going to do? What are they going to do?
Exactly. What are they going to do? Good luck with that.
And think how much money you pay to them for that stuff. Imagine if you took half.
We're actually paying to be abused. That's the irony here, guys. We're paying to be abused.
Imagine if you took half the population of England and said, let's take £100 a month and put it in a pot and build our own security team that then go, and if you don't like it, these people here, the 200,000 people or whatever that we can employ with that, will come and deal with you if you come and bully us anymore. What are they going to do? And people say, oh, they'll send the army after you. Well, they don't actually have 200,000 people between the police and the army. So if we had 200,000 of our own people, now that may sound very confrontational, but our team are not going to do anything. They're just going to be there in case someone turns around and tells us we have to. That's what we think we've got now. I'd rather contribute £100 to that than £100 to God knows what I don't get for any of the rubbish that I pay for. And to me, it's really straightforward. If we just did that, the force of the law would have no force. And then this whole control freak mess that we basically live under would instantly collapse. And, and then maybe freedom might actually exist, which we don't have, even though people think we, ironically, places like America call themselves the land of the free. and they have none at all. You know, once you realize it, you can't go back from realizing it. And anyone that's new to this, if you listen to this and you've just gone, okay, I've realized something's a bit wrong, you can be caught in the headlights for a long time, or you can do something about it immediately. And the first thing you need to do is look at the people that you're skeptical of, those people that you think, well, why do I have to do this? And why do I have to do that? And why do I have to do as I'm told? And go, okay, how do I stop that? And ultimately look to people that can give you those solutions. You know, there's something that's happening in my personal life at the moment with my dad, where I've met someone who's given me some advice about his health, and he literally in 5 minutes asked me questions that doctors in 2 weeks of doing tests on my dad hadn't asked him once. And in the 5 minutes, one of the things he asked me was the symptoms. And when I told him the symptoms, he went, it's not that. And in 2 weeks of tests that he's been having, not once did they ask him, are these things happening to you? And, you know, it's just lunacy, because they could have easily gone, you need to have this course of treatment. And we are just so brainwashed into doing as we're told and believing what we hear, that until we all suddenly just stop, like instantly. And I think many people find that difficult. And this is what Republic's about, is trying to give we basically are really concentrating at the moment on infrastructure to make you feel safe, and re-education to make you realize the power that you've got, and not the sovereign power, but the power we have collectively. We have huge amounts of power. Our greatest power is us collectively. All we got to do is just go, no, thanks very much. You know, no violence, no rioting. Look at what's going on in France. They're burning down Vanguard and BlackRock's buildings. You don't have to do that. You just go, sorry, I'd like all my money back, please, and I'm not doing it as you tell me to. And then see what happens.
We're going to have to wrap things up soon, but I'm definitely going to have you back on, because there's so much we can talk about. But this is all hands on deck. So this is your opportunity to just sort of say what it is you could do with, what it is would help your organizations, your initiatives move forward. I'm gathering people would be one of the things, but is there anything else in particular that you guys need, any particular skill sets or anything out there? So if there's someone listening who suddenly might go, actually, I've got that skill set, and how people can find you and contact you.
Yeah, well, the Republic of England is therepublicofengland.com. Our email is therepublicofengland@protonmail.com. If anyone's interested in getting involved in building any part of everything that we need to rebuild, then we're interested to hear. But at the moment, one of the most important things we need is places to go and tell people about the idea. We're going around just doing presentations. We do it for free. We'll cover the venue. We just need to tell as many people as possible about the idea, because when people hear it, they go, okay, that's quite simple. I understand that. And if, you know, it sounds like a plan. And if you've got an organization that has got the starting point of a solution to a problem that a country would need, we want to talk to you, because we don't want to build everything from scratch. We want to work with people that are already doing it and support you. You know, if you need more resources, you need more people, you need this, we'll go around and get those people while you're busy building that stuff. You know, again, if you think about it, if you had half the population of this country all just putting in £1 a month, imagine what you could do with that. And we put in thousands of pounds a month into God knows what. I mean, what do we get for it apart from bullied?
No, absolutely, Mr. Noble. I can quite agree with that. So guys, if you're out there, if you're looking to learn more, you just want to understand what your position is, and you want to actually start standing up for yourself a little bit against the system, then head over to In One Place. What we'll do is we'll drop all of Jason's links into the notes, into the description, so you can go and just tap on those. But should you want to understand more or start moving against the system, I don't know if that's the right way of doing it, but standing your ground, then go and find out more information, go and get involved, go and have a look at the Republic of England, see what resonates. If nothing I've said or Jason said does resonate with you, there are initiatives out there you can get involved with. Each and every one of us has an obligation and a responsibility to help move things forward and start changing the way we live. And so I'd invite everyone to get involved, as always. So I will be back soon, and I will be back with Jason soon. I'm in no doubt, because I've still got a million questions to ask him. So watch this space. But thank you so much for joining me today, mate. It's been good to catch up, and yeah, we'll have this out soon. So again, I'll get told off if I don't do it. Like, subscribe, share the information out there. We'll get this out on our usual platforms, and yeah, have a good day. Thank you very much.